Waylon Arnold Jennings was born on June 15, 1937, on the J.W. Bittner farm near Littlefield, Texas. He was the son of Lorraine Beatrice Shipley and William Albert Jennings. The Jennings family line descended from Irish and Black Dutch. The Shipley line descended from Cherokee and Comanche families. The name on Jennings' birth certificate was Wayland. It was changed after a Baptist preacher visited his parents and congratulated his mother for naming him after the Wayland Baptist University in Plainsville, Texas. Lorraine Jennings, who had been unaware of the college, changed the spelling to Waylon. Jennings later expressed in his autobiography, "I didn't like Waylon. It sounded corny and hillbilly. But it's been good to me, and I'm pretty well at peace with it right now." After working as a laborer on the Bittner farm, Jennings' father moved the family to Littlefield and established a retail creamery. Before we continue with our story, please take a moment to like and subscribe. It doesn't cost anything, but it sure would help us out a lot. When Jennings was 8, his mother taught him to play guitar with the tune 30 Pieces of Silver. Jennings used to practice with his relatives' instruments until his mother bought him a used Stella guitar, and later ordered a Harmony Patrician guitar. Early influences included Bob Wills, Floyd Tillman, Ernest Tubb, Hank Williams, Carl Smith, and Elvis Presley. Beginning with performances at family gatherings, Jennings played his first public concert at the Youth Center with Anthony Bonanno, followed by appearances at the local JC and Lions clubs. He won a talent show at Channel 13 in Lubbock, singing "Hey Joe." He later made frequent performances at the Palace Theater in Littlefield during local talent night. At the age of 14, Jennings auditioned for a spot on KVOW in Littlefield, Texas. Owner J.B. McShann, along with Emil Macha, recorded Jennings' performances. McShann liked his style and hired him for a weekly 30-minute program. Following his performances on the show, Jennings formed his own band. He asked Macha to play bass for him and gathered other friends and acquaintances to form the Texas Longhorns. The style of the band, a mixture of country and western and bluegrass music, was often not well received. After several disciplinary infractions, 16-year-old 10th grader Jennings was convinced to drop out of Littlefield High School by the superintendent. Upon leaving school, he worked for his father in the family store, while he also took temporary jobs. Jennings felt that music would turn into his career. The next year, along with the Texas Longhorns, he recorded a demo of the song "Stranger in My Home" and "There'll Be a New Day" at KFYO radio in Lubbock. Meanwhile, he drove a truck. Jennings and other local musicians often performed at country radio station KDAV. During this time, he met Buddy Holly at a Lubbock restaurant. The two often met during local shows, and Jennings began to attend Holly's performances on KDAV's Sunday Party. In addition to performing on air for KVOW, Jennings started to work as a DJ in 1956 and moved to Lubbock. His program ran from 4 in the afternoon to 10 p.m. in the evening, filled with 2 hours of country classics, 2 of current country, and 2 of mixed recordings. The latter included early rock and roll stars such as Chuck Berry and Little Richard. The owner reprimanded Jennings for his selection, and after playing 2 Richard records in a row, Jennings was fired. During his time at KVOW, Jennings was visited by DJ Sky Corbin, of KLVT in Loveland. Corbin was impressed with his voice and decided to visit Jennings at the station after hearing him sing a jingle to the tune of Hank Snow's I'm Moving On. Jennings expressed his struggle to live on $50 a week salary. Corbin invited Jennings to visit KLVT, where he eventually took Corbin's position when it opened. The Corbin family later purchased KLLL in Lubbock. They changed the format of the station to country, becoming the main competition of KDAV. The Corbins hired Jennings as the station's first DJ. Jennings produced commercials and created jingles for the rest of the DJs. As their popularity increased, the DJs made public appearances. Jennings' events included live performances. During one performance, Holly's father, L.O. Holly, approached them with his son's latest record and requested them to play it at the station. L.O. mentioned his son's intention to start producing artists himself, and Corbin recommended Jennings. After returning from his tour of England, Buddy Holly visited KLLL. Holly took Jennings as his first artist. He outfitted him with new clothes and worked with him to improve his image. He arranged a session for Jennings at Norman Petty's recording studio in Clovis, New Mexico. On September 10th, Jennings recorded the song Joel Blonde and When Sin Stops, Love Begins, with Holly and Tommy Alsop on guitars and saxophonist Ken Curtis. Holly then hired Jennings to play bass for him during his Winter Dance Party tour. The Winter Dance Party tour began in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, on January 23, 1959. The amount of travel created logistical problems as the distance between venues had not been considered when scheduling each performance. Adding to the problem, the unheated tour buses twice broke down in freezing weather, leading to drummer Carl Bunch being hospitalized for frostbite on his toes. Holly made the decision to find another means of transportation. Before their performance at the Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake, Iowa, Holly chartered a 4-seat Beechcraft Bonanza airplane from Dwyer Flying Service in Mason City, Iowa, for himself, Jennings, and Tommy Alsop, to avoid the long bus trip to their next venue in Moorhead, Minnesota. Following the Clear Lake show, which ended around midnight, Alsop lost a coin toss and gave up his seat on the charter plane to Richie Valens, while Jennings voluntarily gave up his seat to J.P. Richardson, known as the Big Bopper, who was suffering from the flu and complaining about how cold and uncomfortable the tour bus was for a man of his size. When Holly learned that his bandmates had given up their seats on the plane and had chosen to take the bus rather than fly, a friendly banter between Holly and Jennings ensued, and it would come back to haunt Jennings for decades to follow. Holly jokingly told Jennings, "Well, I hope your old bus freezes up." Jennings jokingly replied, "Well, I hope your old plane crashes." Less than an hour and a half later, shortly after 1 a.m. on February 3, 1959, Holly's charter plane crashed at full throttle into a cornfield outside of Mason City, instantly killing all on board. Later that morning, Jennings' family heard on the radio that Buddy Holly and his band had been killed. After calling his family, Jennings called Sky Corbin at KLLL from Fargo to say that he hadn't been aboard the plane. For decades afterwards, Jennings repeatedly admitted that he felt responsible for the crash that killed Holly. This sense of guilt precipitated bouts of substance abuse throughout much of Jennings' career.